What is up, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast here on the Smark Out Moment channel, where we are now in 2003 and going through all of these episodes of SmackDown up until the point where Paul Heyman is no longer the head writer. But on this journey back in time, joining me, as always, Callum Wiggins, is Robert DeFelice.
Callum, Happy New Year, Happy 2021, Happy 2003. I don't know which one I'm more excited about at the moment, but we're here.
Well, we're finally free of 2020, so that is at least one thing to be excited about. But it also means we're free of 2002, and 2002 was a solid year for the SmackDown brand. I think it got a little bit sideways towards the back end of 2002, but there were a lot of great matches, a lot of great things to talk about. The debut of John Cena, all the stuff involving the Super Six, the rise of Brock Lesnar as the tops guy in the company, the Big Show's rejuvenation. So I'm hoping that 2003, at least in the short amount of time, the couple of months still going to be checking out these episodes, will at least deliver to a certain degree at that level as well.
Yeah, and I think while we're here, I just want to give a final shout out to The Rock, who had a great 2002 and really a great final run on television. And it was a lot more fun than I thought it would be going back and checking all that stuff out. But now we are here in 2003. There is a young Shelton Benjamin. There is a young John Cena. And the future of SmackDown is looking bright with Paul Heyman at the helm for the next 8 weeks.
Absolutely. So, of course, want to invite everyone that's listening to this who's joined us from the transition from 2002 over to 2003 to leave a like and a comment below. Let us know how you're enjoying the series so far. Let us know what your plans are for 2021, or if you're looking forward to the 2003 run of SmackDown now. Of course, if you're listening to us through one of the podcast feeds like iTunes or Stitcher or something of that ilk, then leave us a rating or a review if you could be so kind to. There's obviously a playlist on the YouTube channel where you can check out all the episodes of the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast up until this point, and a link in the description to this episode of SmackDown on the WWE Network if you have not checked it out already. So, as per usual, let's start off with a little bit of news. There's nothing super exciting today. Actually, I might even start off with the fact of saying that we're not going to be doing a review of Raw because Raw wasn't an episode that we can do a review of because it was a 2002 best of show.
Yeah, I think they do one more of these in 2003, and I don't know if they return to that format ever again.
Yeah, so it's a bit unfair to give Raw any sort of rating on this one because, of course, they didn't really get any sort of real numbers for this show. SmackDown, if in case you're wondering, scored a 3.91, so basically mirroring what they did in the last show of 2002. So, yeah, it's fairly consistent at this point with the ratings. Looking down my ratings list between now and the end of the year, it seems to just consistently hover around the somewhere between 3.8 and 4.0 range. So they're on very stable ground at the moment.
Yeah, and I dare say these are numbers they would kill for today.
Oh, absolutely, but it isn't numbers. Well, that's part of the news that we're going to be talking about. It's not numbers that UPN are apparently super interested in because there are still a lot of rumors circulating at this point in time that UPN are planning on cutting SmackDown, despite the fact that it is their most consistently highly rated show, ahead of even Buffy the Vampire Slayer at this point.
Which is dumb. Like, UPN, I feel like, is fondly remembered now, but at the time, UPN didn't have too much going for it, and SmackDown was one of the key consistencies. I don't know why they would want to cut that program.
Well, it was obviously not due to the ratings they're receiving or the millions of viewers that are tuning in. It was due to the fact that, as we've spoken about a little bit on this podcast, and I think maybe we touched on it a little bit on 2001 A Wrestling Odyssey as well, which you can also check out on the Smark Out Moment channel. Advertising is the issue with professional wrestling, in the fact that SmackDown, despite being one of the highest rated shows on that network, was also in the bottom 5 for the amount of money that their advertising generated. So it's just the issue with the fact that it's an issue that follows professional wrestling, especially at this point in time, is that wrestling appeals to the lowest common denominator. And if it appeals to, I guess, rednecks and people from very low working class backgrounds, those are people that aren't going to be spending money.
I think this is a great discussion to have when we talk about the dreaded move to the PG era. And really, honestly, a lot of the reason that is because of this. They wanted better advertisers. They could, body spray isn't breaking in all the dollars. You know, they wanted the National Guard and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this left SmackDown in a little bit of a sticky situation because WWE, after moving to TNN and also UPN, which were all under the same Viacom family, along with CBS, MTV, a couple of other TV stations as well, WWE had a non-complete contract with Viacom, which meant that if SmackDown was to have been removed from UPN, unless they could find another Viacom station that was willing to hold it, they wouldn't be able to show SmackDown until their contract with Viacom ended.
Huh.
Which it did in 2005 when they moved back to USA for Raw with that Homecoming special.
I remember that felt like such a big deal. And nowadays, it really seems like that really was home and that's where they should have been all along, you know?
Yeah, the ratings definitely took a tumble once they moved to TNN. And then obviously it would eventually become Spike and eventually would pick up TNA for a while. So wrestling would not be far removed from Spike for a while at least.
For at least until what, 2014? So I think we've got
Dixie fucked it up.
Yeah. So we've got a long time.
There was also the idea circulating that UPN had proposed to SmackDown at the very least to cut the episodes to around about 60 to 90 minutes, and then they would put a sitcom on after the show, which was aimed towards SmackDown's biggest demographic at the time, which was the male aged 12 to 34, or 18 to 34, sorry. And so it's the idea of like they wanted to use SmackDown's leading audience to go into this sitcom, and then a sitcom would be more likely to have significant advertising surrounding it as well. So it means that they could have the episode of SmackDown, use the positive momentum that it generates by just attracting fans in, and then present them with a more ad-friendly form of programming at the end of it. But SmackDown refused to budge from the contract they originally signed, which said that they would get a 2-hour program.
Yeah. I don't know why, for some reason, the ratings nowadays have moved to that much wider gap of 18 to 49. I always liked the very targeted 18 to 34 because that feels like a concise demographic. I think once you widen that from less than 20 and basically 50, who are you really marketing to? Because that's too wide of a spectrum, or at least in my opinion. So I think, at least back then, I feel like they were more tuned into what they were actually offering people, and they should have taken UPN up on that because honestly, shows are better when they're shorter. I think we've learned that now more than ever, and maybe it could have helped them.
So the other news related was also TV related. It's involving Raw this time. So they were talking about Meltzer in The Observer did a big piece referring to Raw rating swings for the main event segment. So essentially, who on the roster was when they were in the main event was throughout 2002 was boosting since the brand split, actually specifically, but since the brand split happened, who on the Raw roster was consistently boosting up ratings and boosting up viewership between the second to last segment and in the main event. Can you have a guess who was at number one? It's not Triple H, by the way.
It's not Triple H, okay. It's gonna be a wild one, but is it Trish?
It's not Trish. It is a male.
It is a male, okay. Is it Booker?
Booker was number 2.
Huh.
It was actually Kane.
That's wild.
So Kane, in terms of averaging for when he was in the main events of the show, the ratings the viewership went up over 500,000 when Kane was in main events.
Now, what do you think that is?
Well, of course, there's a lot of factors involved in it. So it's not just due to the fact that Kane was in the main event. It's who Kane is in the main event with. Obviously, Kane was involved in that big TLC ladder match. So that had a big effect because that was a big ratings mover for them in the main event of that segment. There's just a lot of, but it's just the idea that Kane was involved a lot towards the back end of 2002. Maybe the fact that he had a shorter window working in because he was off TV from, I think, very early in the Raw run. Then he was injured for a while. He came back post SummerSlam. So maybe that had something to do with it. There's a lot of factors involved in it, but I think Kane is just consistently popular as well. So,
and I think here's an underrated element. Kane and Triple H are probably the only two ties on the red brand to The Rock, to Stone Cold. Kane is a name that people would remember from 1998, 1999.
Yeah. So Meltzer listed the top 8 for this one, which was Kane top, obviously, with 579,000. Booker T was next with 394,000. Then it was Triple H. Obviously, Triple H got the most main event segments at this point in time, but he was still third place. Then it was Jericho, Jeff Hardy, Rob Van Dam, Ric Flair, and then in a pretty distant 8th place, Shawn Michaels.
Well, I feel like Shawn still at that point wasn't around.
No, but it just relates to the average that he did in main event segments.
Right.
So basically any point where he was in the main event of the show or in the main event act at the end of the show, it just counts those results for him and the average that he added to it, which was less than 100,000.
All of that is very shocking to me. All that actually says is, let's put some money behind Jeff Hardy, which I guess they would have tried to do.
Yeah,
didn't get the chance to.
He gets released in a couple of months' time, so they don't really get too much chance to do that as well. But I think something that may shock you even more is something else relating to Shawn Michaels, which is Meltzer also did like an overall look at what difference that his segments made to the segment prior to it in terms of viewership. And apparently from Shawn Michaels, every segment that he was involved in 2002 averaged out to a plus 3,030 additional fans. Just 3,000 additional ones. If you compare that to Triple H, who added 164,000 in every segment he was involved. Victoria, 151,000 in the segment she was involved in. And Bubba Ray Dudley, even 136,000. Michaels was adding 3,000.
So let me ask you, do you think this is because at that time, even a guy like Shawn Michaels was seen as like, oh, well, that's old school. A lot of those fans have already left? Because
Meltzer did refer to the fact in the Observer that he referred to Michaels' return as a flop, and that Michaels wasn't moving any needles or getting any real attention, because I think a lot of people. I don't want to say this too much because again, there's a lot of factors involved in it. There's a lot of other things involved in every segment, so it might be the fact that Michaels was always next to some big moving like things that had a decent amount of viewership, and then it was his segment, so it was difficult to add any more to it. There's a lot of factors involved. You'd have to do like a really detailed analysis to it, but there is the general consensus that Michaels was not the ratings mover or the huge star of the likes of an Austin or Rock or anything like that that's really going to move the needle for the company by him coming back.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that is something that has plagued Shawn Michaels' whole career, where like we love him because we like the in-ring product, and I think as the brand and as the industry has moved more in-ring focus, Shawn Michaels has taken more center stage, but there is always that stigma of like Shawn failed as champion, Shawn failed as a draw, even though he instituted a lot of the attitude ideals, he wasn't around for all of that. And that's something that they even alluded to towards like the back end of his career, that for a while he did hold some bitterness about not being involved in the Attitude Era. And I just wonder if all of this adds to that, because really Shawn Michaels should be moving more viewership.
I believe he would start to do once they realised that he was back, and I think it was just the idea that right now his nostalgia isn't working, but when he comes back, he starts as being a top star in the brand, then he starts to move things forward again. But it's just at the moment, they just see him as a nostalgia act that they don't really care about.
That's so crazy.
So let's talk a little bit about this episode of SmackDown. I've got the news out of the way. So it's January 2nd, 2003, from the Tingley Coliseum in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
From the what Coliseum?
Tingley.
Wow, okay.
As in your hands are like feeling numb or something.
Yeah, wow. I've never heard that name before. That's a very interesting name for a venue.
I assume it's not called that anymore. It's probably called like the Coke Arena or something like that.
The NyQuil Center or whatever.
No, it's still called the Tingley Coliseum.
It's so good.
Yeah, an 11,571 seat multi-purpose arena in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Originally built as a rodeo and horse show auditorium, because of course.
Wow. the Tingley Center. Come watch the radio at the Tingley Center,
Coliseum.
kids. The
Coliseum.
Tingley Coliseum. Oh, even better.
So the opening video package here highlights Brock Lesnar returning to the ring tonight and the marriage of Dawn Marie and Al Wilson, which
Sure
are basically your top of the hour and your main event segments.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's a wedding. A wedding's always going to be like one of the highest billed segments on the show.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't.
No, but we'll talk about it. There's obviously a lot to cover with that. So, but we have our opening contest straight away, which is John Cena versus Rikishi.
The feud to end all feuds. Am I right, Callum?
Yeah, these guys have been feuding for a while. Cena cuts a rap on his way to the ring about Rikishi being fat, including lines about how his ass looked like chewed bubble gum and he was sweating grease.
You know, John, I feel like has matured so much. It's almost like I'll go back in time a little bit here with you. I watched Goldmember recently, the Austin Powers movie with Beyonce. And you look at who Beyonce is today, and you go, oh, you're kind of above some of this, aren't you? And that's the way I feel about John Cena and some of his rapping jokes in retrospect.
Yeah, there was the one line in particular caught my eye that I thought, oh, this doesn't age well. There was a Jared from Subway reference. And yeah, so that's a little bit like whenever I think that, I just think of them. Was it the South Park game? I know South Park made a lot of references to him anyway, but there was I think it was the South Park Fractured But Whole.
Fractured But Whole.
Yeah, it's just that definitely had a scene with Jared coming out of a prison cell, and you had to battle him in some instance of that.
You know, granted, okay, that one in particular isn't John's fault, but so many of these age so poorly, and it's laughable. But I think John Cena being able to rise above the crassness and really almost becoming the forefront of the opposite of that may be the success story of all success stories in WWE.
So what do you think about him rocking the cargo shorts and knee pads?
Better than the floppy pants. But we're getting there. We're getting to where he'll be in about 4 or 5 months, maybe even less than that.
Yeah. So the match kicks off. Rikishi at one point gets him into the corner. B-Squared drags Cena out of it to avoid getting a stink face. So Rikishi comes outside, he knocks him down. Cena then distracts the referee. B-Squared then drives Rikishi into the apron to get the heat on him. Cole says that they will announce some of the SmackDown participants for the Royal Rumble next week, because we are on the road to the Royal Rumble. I guess both in real life and back in 2003 as well. And obviously that's one of the biggest events of the year, and something that we're going to be reviewing for Patreon, obviously, in the Darkcast here. But yeah, obviously the Royal Rumble, something to look forward to.
Back then they had this shit down to a science. 15 from Raw, 15 from SmackDown, and these spots are precious. You don't see that today. It's just whoever we can muster up, especially nowadays. It's whoever we can muster up. But I've always enjoyed that.
Yeah, they were very much not, because as far as I recall, I don't think 2003, they very much don't lean on surprise returns that they do nowadays.
Yeah, I think that I can recall, there are 2 returns, and they're both advertised in advance.
So match continues. Cole and Taz compare a B-Squared hat to a doily.
Some of this stuff is just like, it's almost not even funny. It's just sort of like, yeah, there's that, dig, you got that in there.
Yeah, it's just the idea of Michael Cole calling someone else looking like a nerd or something like that. So
it's so weird.
Funny. B-Squared tries to put his chain on the top turnbuckle, but the referee catches him, berates him. This means he misses Rikishi pinning Cena after a chokeslam attempt. Then there's a convoluted ending. So Rikishi brings B-Squared into the ring. Referee tries to break their fight up. Cena then pushes the referee. The referee thinks that Rikishi pushed him instead. Then Cena rolls up Rikishi, gets the 3 count.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But you would feel the stark contrast if you were pushed by John Cena or if you were pushed by Rikishi. There's some weight difference there. There's some strength difference at this point.
Yeah,
It makes
also
the
probably
referee
due to the
look
fact
dumb.
that Rikishi's a baby face, so probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
But,
makes the ref look real dumb.
Yeah, so it wasn't the greatest opening match. The post match was actually quite funny though, because Rikishi chases after B Squared, and B Squared falls over the barricade as he's escaping, so he has to like stumble a little bit because Rikishi's like standing right next to him, and so but Rikishi's supposed to be chasing him, so Rikishi has to wait for like 3 seconds for B Squared to get back to his feet and run off. So that was funny at very least. You can see why B Squared didn't hang around too much.
I was gonna say, well, like we're getting towards the end of B Squared, I think.
Yeah, it won't be too much longer. He does appear in the Royal Rumble though, so that was the spot. Well,
I don't believe that who Cena replaces him with is around for much longer either, though.
No, I don't think so either. Or at least not with
not with SmackDown.
Not with SmackDown anyway. Be around for a little bit beyond that point. So immediately after, wedding music plays and Dawn Marie appears on the stage in her wedding dress.
We had to cover more than one wedding in this journey.
Yeah, I know. Well, to be fair, the first one was a commitment ceremony. So you can't use wedding
that's fair.
At that point in time. So Dawn says like she's a beautiful blushing bride. She loves her dress, but she doesn't intend to be wearing her dress during her vows, and she promises to marry Al Wilson in the nude.
My first thought as an individual who now knows the price of weddings, why'd you buy the dress? Why'd you buy the dress if you didn't have any intention of wearing it? Come on.
Well, I guess the idea is that she's milking out of his money, or at least that's what we're supposed to believe. So he probably bought the dress, so she's wearing that, and then she decides, no, I really want to get the spotlight on me, so I'm going to get married in the nude instead.
Well, I guess that's to the Rockets' applause in the SmackDown crowd until they realized that Al would be naked too.
She did. The crowd actually didn't really react to it when she said she's getting dressed in the nude. They basically just like it basically was the same sound as before she started saying it.
So I don't know what out the cheers.
Maybe either that or it was just
because
the way she pronounced it was pretty bad.
These crowds are a very libido-driven bunch, and I'm sure they would cheer that.
Or maybe it was just due to the fact of maybe if there wasn't a huge reaction, it was due to the fact of basically they do this, and both Raw and SmackDown be doing this. They do this every single week or month at the very least, where a diva says, "Oh, I'm going to be stripping naked," or like the.
Like, you think they've realized that? No, you're not.
Yeah. So the idea of like Nunzio getting topless after her match, or the Stephanie McMahon HLA angle, or anything to that logic, or even like the Dawn Marie and Tori stuff, like showing as little as they did to an extent. Just the idea of okay, I don't actually think you can get married in the nude because you're on a TV show that shows at like 8 to 10 at night, and yeah, there's certain things you can get away with on certain shows from past that point, but you're not actually going to get naked, so don't try and insult her intelligence.
That's you know what? Fair thought though.
So come back after the break. Stephanie enters the bridal suite, compliments Dawn, but she says that she has no problem with Dawn getting married, but she can't do it in the nude.
Steph. Why? Come on. Just because none of your weddings worked out, why you ruin this for the fans?
So Dawn asks what would happen if the dress just happens to fall off, and Stephanie says that there'll be some serious repercussions, and then just leaves. So she just like tries Dawn to just say, yeah, just try and do it.
Don't get married naked, Dawn.
Yeah.
Like, stop it.
Dawn then just smirks and asks Jan, who's helping her get ready, like how serious those repercussions might be, just to give you again a little tease, like saying, "Oh, she's not going to listen to our authority." Just like,
bless Jan. I hope Jan is doing well. Jan has been in a lot of these.
I think it's more the idea of like, is Dawn really a heel if she wants to get married in the nude? It's like surely at this point in time, that's like the thing that turns you babyface, really.
Yeah, I would imagine that she has never been a heel. I've told you this several times throughout this journey. I don't see the heel. Yes, she did manipulate Tori. That's like easily the worst thing that she did. But like throughout this whole journey, it's kind of been like, why are we supposed to boo you?
Let's move on to another match. Bill Demott versus Chuck Palumbo. Another enhancement talent entrance for Chuck Palumbo. Former tag team champion, as commentary reminds us as well. Just
I believe in September, which is 3 months maybe before this, was called one half of the greatest tag team in WWE history by one Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah, so
that's a thing that happened.
Yeah, so has a match with Bill Demott. So Palumbo hits a huge forearm, knocking Demott down early. Hits a big right hand at one point. Demott then hits a splash in the corner. Then it's just a load of like climbing forearms to the back and rest holds and blah 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 blah.
In a Bill Demott match, you don't say.
Yeah, it's incredibly dull. I'm amazed the crowd got behind Palumbo when he's escaping like this endless headlock that he's in. Palumbo hits a belly-to-belly throw. I think that might have been the first actual wrestling move in this entire match. Demott then clotheslines Palumbo, attempting the discus punch. He then hits an inverted DDT and pins Chuck Palumbo.
Why are we not over Bill Demott yet?
Well, it's not even just that. I mean, it's a boring match, but it's just the idea of, well, he didn't even use the moonsault. Why don't we just... that'll be the one entertaining part of this entire match is him hitting the moonsault, and he can't even do that.
Well, goddamn, pal. These big guys need to know how to work. They can't be flipping.
Yeah, so, yeah, that was a thing that happened on this show. Don't want to talk about it too much because it bored the shit out of me. We see something a bit more interesting, which is a promo video saying that the dead man will walk again at Royal Rumble.
Okay. I'm not even 10 yet. I am 9.5, maybe. I believed that the dead man gimmick was coming back, and I was stoked. And they lie. Spoiler alert. He's not the dead man again for another year. This was so disappointing.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up as well, because basically, even though I wasn't like super following The Undertaker's career prior to this, because obviously this is when I started watching, but it's just the idea of all the clips they show is of The Undertaker as the dead man or the Phenom and not as American Badass. But he does come back as the American Badass, The Undertaker, on his motorcycle and everything, so yeah, I can see why certain people would have been disappointed about how he just came back.
Upsetting as a child. Like, I never liked the badass character. It always took me way out of it. I always thought, he was better as the Undertaker character, and they just lied. They just manipulated your emotions.
You know something else underwhelming?
Oh, let me guess. Is it the presence of Billy Kidman?
Yes. So Billy Kidman walks into Tori Wilson backstage. Tori says that her father may have had a point about her not being supportive of him last week, and even though she doesn't condone the wedding at all, she's there for him in spirit. Tori says that Dawn should be married nude because there's no way she'd be wearing white to get married. Because you
would know, Tori.
Yeah. Yeah, you're part of the reason why that's the case.
Yeah.
Then Kidman does a really lame comedy impression of Al Wilson and Dawn Marie.
All I could think about is, I wonder how many times after Sunday dinners when Al Wilson would go home that Billy Kidman did this impression of Al Wilson.
Yeah, it was just hilarious that he's essentially mocking his own father-in-law in front of his wife.
Oh yeah, because I'm sure that that's happened many times.
Yeah.
And it's so borderline offensive to me. You couldn't do this now with social media, but like, oh no, that's Tori's friend. There's no way this dweeb would ever be regularly hooking up with Tori Wilson.
Yeah, Tori has to stand there, pretend that she's finding any of this funny, and then it mercifully ends. I'm so over Billy Kidman at this point. Like, he was doing so well when he wasn't talking.
Who would you compare him to on today's roster? I mean, there's a lot
Humberto
of like,
Carrillo.
Yeah, that's perfect.
A cruiserweight who is fine enough to watch in the ring, but then when you try and give him any semblance of personality, it falls flat.
Did you know that he wrestled Hulk Hogan on pay-per-view?
So let's move on to Josh Matthews interviewing Kurt Angle, who's flanked by Team Angle.
First of all, I love that it's Josh Matthews and not Mark Lloyd.
Yeah, at this point, I think Mark Lloyd is pretty much not on SmackDown anymore. So
he's on the okay, pal. We're gonna have you host Afterburn and the Bottom Line or whatever.
So he asked Angle if he's ready to defend his title against Chris Benoit at Royal Rumble, because obviously he's still carrying a knee injury, or a recovering knee at the very least. Angle says the question is if Benoit will be prepared after what happened last week. They show footage of the post-match attack from the previous week's main event where Team Angle beat up Chris Benoit. Matthews asked if he's worried about Benoit's partner for tonight when they take on Team Angle. Angle says that he isn't, but Benoit should be. Angle says the only thing that he worries him at all is keeping his gold polished. So obviously he's got both a gold medal and a gold belt. I don't think he's ever mentioned the fact that he's got a gold medal, but
he doesn't need to. It's there.
Yeah. Angle says that the key word in WWE is wrestling. Of course, I assume Vince McMahon did not approve this.
That's a Paul Heyman line, huh?
Yeah. And that wrestling is what Team Angle does best. He bigs up both Huss and Benjamin, their collegiate accolades. Angle then says Benoit probably didn't even graduate from college, and he would have only made the practice squad for his college's wrestling team at best if he did.
I don't recall if Benoit had actually gone to college. I know that he obviously did some high school wrestling, but I think he just straight into the pros.
Yeah, he is pretty much. It amazes me when you obviously watch him against them matches with Kurt Angle in particular, the fact that he has no collegiate wrestling background or even like really any significant amateur wrestling background, because he essentially from in his late teens he joins the Heart Dungeon. So
you would really think like he must have been a proficient college champion or grappler. No, he's just a guy who liked technical wrestling.
Yeah, he's someone who just mirrored the work of Bret Hart and Dynamite Kid and got really good at that side of it as well. So
yeah,
but yeah, he's completely pro wrestling trained. So we move on to something good on the show finally. Eddie Guerrero versus Billy Kidman. Billy Kidman, great in the ring when he's not talking.
Billy Kidman is very good. Eddie Guerrero, who is not a cruiserweight, they like to remind you that sometimes, is one of the best of all time. I wish Billy Kidman had more charisma so we could have seen more of these guys together.
So Eddie is now no longer rocking a mullet. It's down to a short hair look.
I don't like it. I gotta tell you, I think mullet Eddie in terms of looks maybe my favorite Eddie, and this Eddie with this short of a haircut, easily my least favorite look for Eddie Guerrero.
So there's a monkey flip by Kidman as both guys like trade the advantage early on. A fall away slam and float over by Eddie, which I was really impressed by. Just like, it's nice that he can do that against some of the smaller guys. But then, just as the match is getting started, Cena and B Squared come out and they cut a rap on Eddie. So Cena's rapping for the second time tonight. He makes jokes about immigration taking Eddie's green card away and how 1983 want their hairstyle back, even though he doesn't have a mullet anymore.
He had that line pre-written.
Yeah, I know.
Stupid Eddie, what are you getting a haircut for?
Yeah, he even references in the rap that Eddie's got a haircut, he's no longer got the mullet, and then he makes a joke about how Eddie's got a mullet.
I guess 1983 took the hairstyle back, what can I say?
Kidman then it gets a bit clusterfucky in that Kidman clotheslines Eddie out of the ring. Chavo and B Squared fight into the ring. Rikishi comes down. He beats up B Squared with the referees coming in to break up the melee. After commercial, we see officials trying to drag Rikishi backstage. Chavo and B Squared have been ejected from ringside. Cena's on commentary, and the match is going on.
Yeah.
But a lot happened in a short space of time.
There's a lot of moving parts, though, Callum, so it's good.
So Eddie hits one of his beautiful tilt-the-world backbreakers. He goes from a gory special into some sort of weird splash mountain cyclone bomb. And
Eddie's just trying.
Oh yeah, he's trying something new, but that looked like just Kidman just fell on his ass from about 2 feet, and it didn't look that impressive at all. So I don't think we ever see him do that move again, or at least against someone of Kidman's size. Maybe he could do it against like Mysterio or something, someone he could really get in the air.
Yeah, well, Kidman is a cruiserweight champion. Kidman, do your job as a small guy. What are you doing?
Taz and Cena are very chummy on commentary, which is funny considering that less than a month ago
Taz locked him in Taz.
Yeah, Taz locked him in the Taz mission, but they're friends now. So they said that everything that happened between them is in the past. They're all buddy, and Cole talks about the fact that he needs a rap to English dictionary.
God damn it.
Cena's showing a lot of character in this role, obviously, as the rapper. But I think on commentary, the fact that he sticks to that rapping gimmick and he doesn't miss a beat anytime that he's spoken to, is just really, really good.
So I think that's an underrated element of this John Cena character, because I don't really know where it dropped off, maybe around 06, but at some point, like, he just stopped speaking like the rapper character and just started using his real voice. But for a long time, John Cena, the character, only spoke like that.
Yeah, so there's a superplex by Eddie to Kidman. Eddie then misses the frog splash. Kidman hits a powerbomb for 2. Kidman reverses a tilt the world, hits a knee cane bomb for 2. Then Eddie commits the fast becoming the WWE's cardinal sin. Don't ever try and powerbomb Billy Kidman.
You know, obviously we don't have Kidman anymore to wear that this with, but this is something that they have to stop doing. When you're in the ring with Ray, you don't go between the middle rope. When you're in the ring with Kidman, don't go for the powerbomb. Come on, Eddie. You've been in the ring with him.
So the finish happens where both men bang heads in the corner. Referee checks on Kidman to see if his head's okay. Cena then hits Eddie with the chain. So Eddie's out in the corner. Kidman gets up, hits the shooting star press, wins the match. So Kidman gets a big win over Eddie Guerrero. It was chaotic, but it's probably the best. It's definitely the best ring work we'd seen so far in the evening. So yeah, I'm pretty okay with this.
Yeah, I want to like Billy Kidman more, but he's a charisma vacuum.
Yeah, and obviously they're now building up towards a feud between Cena and B Squared against the Guerreros. So
see, now what I would do here is I would pair some of the workhorses of SmackDown, Rikishi with Billy Kidman, all the charisma and no charisma, they balance each other out, with B Squared and Cena, and then the Guerreros, and you just do like a triple threat tag match for the belts, and because it's a one and done either way. I'm not even sure if Cena and B Squared get a championship match, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find out in the coming weeks at the very least. There's no preview to Brock being in action tonight because they're bigging up the fact that Brock is the biggest star on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Production then sets up the ring for the wedding. They show a long video package of the whole Dawn Marie, Tori Wilson, now Wilson storyline, including the indecent proposal and all this other stuff. So,
do you remember when he said, "Dawn, if you don't agree to marry me, I'll just kill myself," in the middle of the ring, and got a pop? I want to bring that up because we're not gonna have too many more chances to talk about old Dawn or old Al, and yeah, what a wonderful time this has been.
So Al Wilson comes to the ring looking like an OAP Saturday Night Fever guy.
I genuinely feel like he is living out his, like, I can be a cool guy fantasies. He was the Fonz for Halloween. He looks like Travolta here. Oh, Al. You poor thing.
I think it was the earring that really set everything off.
Yeah.
You can tell the minister for the wedding, obviously Dawn comes out as well. They can tell the minister for the wedding was hoping for some future TV work off the back of this because he's very exuberant with his lines.
Well, he's working for one of the hottest brands in the world right now, WWE.
Yeah. The minister asked for any objections, apart from obviously the thousands of people in the audience. They're all saying no. But Dawn Marie objects, saying that she can't marry Al like this because she promised that she would do it without her dress on. So Dawn asks Al to unzip her dress. She strips down to some white lingerie. She teases removing it more, but says that Stephanie won't let her go any further than this. But Stephanie never mentioned anything about Al Wilson.
Oh.
And what my favorite part about this whole thing is the crowd chanting "Keep it on" in unison. I just love these chants that you never hear in any real circumstances except right now.
And just in, like, wrestling fans are a different breed.
So they start chanting "Keep it on" in unison as Dawn Marie removes Al Wilson's clothes until he's left standing in his underwear.
How do you feel? If you're Al Wilson, what are you feeling at this moment?
Well, he seemed to be okay with it because Dawn then teases removing the underwear and he starts dancing while she's pulling the pants down slightly, and then keeps it on, saying that she stops because she doesn't want the people to see the biggest reason why she's marrying him.
And you just know. I don't care if it's a cliche. and it's everything that we've heard. You just know he's back there going, "This is so fucking funny. Look at him, he's dancing in his underwear. It's great." Like, you just know he thinks like this is the peak of creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. So Al recites his vows. He's nearly crying as he gives Dawn the ring.
I would be too if I was standing in my underwear in front of a crowd of thousands and a TV crowd of millions.
Dawn says her vows. Then the minister announces them husband and wife. They make out, falling to the mat. And then they leave together happily, arm in arm. And I guess this is one of the very few successful weddings in WWE history.
Never said anything about a successful honeymoon, though.
No, we'll get to that next week. But yeah, it must be something in the fact that this is the angle they chose to say, yeah, let's not have anyone interrupt the wedding or anything like that happening.
Tori could easily interrupt. You could have Tori's mother maybe interrupt. I don't know. There are people who could have interrupted this wedding. Justin Credible's still on contract, isn't he? Lance Storm is here. I mean, they got a history with Dawn. Do something.
So we see Team Angle take a walk backstage towards the ring because it's now time for Chris Benoit and Edge versus Team Angle.
Oh. Does it get any more polar opposite than that? Because we go from Al Wilson and Dawn Marie getting married in the nude to Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin versus Chris Benoit and Edge in a great wrestling match.
Yeah, very, very good wrestling match between these two. Obviously, this is Team Angle's debut as a tag team.
You wouldn't know it.
No, I mean, obviously, they're very well seasoned. They've both been in OVW for a long time. I don't think they are. I don't know how much they'd have teamed together at this point.
They didn't. Shelton, for the most of his time there, teamed with Brock.
Yeah, Brock's obviously been gone for a while, and obviously Charlie teamed a lot with his brother before his brother passed away.
And they get together, and it's just like peanut butter and jelly, man. It just works.
Yeah, so Benoit very quickly gets Benjamin into a crossface position, but Haas breaks it up. Edge at one point hits a missile dropkick. Haas grabs the hair of Edge from the apron, then sends Edge into the barricade. That's when they get the heat on them. Angle gets a few shots in when he gets the opportunity from the outside. We then see the very first leapfrog splash. Like I don't know how they describe that move, but it's like,
yeah, I know it's where Charlie Haas is draping the guy on the rope, and they do leapfrog double axe handles, right?
Yeah, why does nobody do that move anymore?
I don't know.
It's so. Why don't Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander do this?
You know what? For that matter, there's a lot of Team Angle moves that nobody does. Nobody does the powerbomb springboard thing that they did. Nobody does the super kick into the German. And you would think at least the super kick into the German would have been taken by now.
Yeah, so there's a flapjack by Haas, then he gets in the Huffs of Pain locked in, but Benoit breaks it up. Edge ducks a kick by Benjamin, hits the face plant. Benoit gets the hot tag, delivers all the clotheslines, all the German suplexes. Snap suplex to Benjamin, hits a diving headbutt, but Haas breaks up the pin. Then we see stereo triple German suplexes by Benoit and Edge to both Team Angle members.
This is good, and Edge didn't do those a lot.
No, and Edge didn't. I can see why Edge didn't do them as much, because you see, the thing about Benoit's one is that he's obviously like a very cerebral worker, but his German suplexes, Benjamin landed flat on his shoulders every single time perfectly. Charlie Haas rolled over onto his neck at least twice in those 3 German suplexes. Just made me a little bit worried about whether Haas was taking it too recklessly or the Edge wasn't as well versed in delivering German suplexes.
I feel like with what I know, it might have been Haas trying to, like, I'm on TV, I gotta spike myself,
So Angle pulls Edge out of the ring, so Benoit then hits him with the baseball slide, knocking him on his ass. Benoit blocks Benjamin's kick, applies a crossface. Edge then spears Haas out of the way, but Angle dives in, hits Benoit in the back of the head with the title for the DQ. They then start beating up the baby faces for a bit. Haas decks Edge with a crutch. Then Angle angrily grabs Tony Chimmel because Chimmel's announced the fact that they've lost by DQ. He throws him into the ring. He pushes down the referee, chokes Chimmel with a crutch until he announces that Team Angle won the match.
I like that. This
is a very different, more aggressive Angle than we see typically.
And it's the best Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle, when he is pissed and he's wrestling machine, best in the world.
Oh yeah, the match was good, but the post-match stuff was even better.
And I just want to throw this out there. Before this match, they announced that SmackDown Tonight was brought to you by SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, obviously on the PlayStation 2, Dragon Ball Z Budokai, also on the PlayStation 2, and the Royal Rumble 2003 is presented by PlayStation 2. Great bits of nostalgia as we enter 2003. And yeah, I just wanted to call that out because PS2 is objectively the greatest console of all time.
Yeah, it's definitely one of, if not the greatest, yeah. After the break, we see Paul Heyman in the ring, saying of how proud he is of Team Angle's athleticism and Kurt Angle's leadership. He says the crowd is sold out tonight because of his favourite client, though, and that is the Big Show. Big Show comes to the ring. Says that he feels empowered standing next to the Big Show, that no one stands up to his dimensions. And so Heyman says that they have a challenge for Brock Lesnar. He goes on, he rambles too much in this one. I feel like they're filling time because he just talks about what the Royal Rumble is as if nobody watching has ever seen the Royal Rumble before. It's about how it's 15 from Raw, 15 from SmackDown. The winner gets the title shot at WrestleMania. It's like, yeah, we kind of know this already.
I feel like maybe they're acting like, well, if you've never seen WWE before, here you go.
Yeah.
And they do that sometimes.
But Heyman says that he doesn't want Lesnar to even have a chance to get to Mania by winning the Rumble. So he challenges them, saying it's going to be Brock Lesnar versus the Big Show at the Royal Rumble, and only the winner gets to enter the Royal Rumble match.
Yeah, that's a convoluted stipulation.
I mean, I kind of like it, the idea of them saying, okay, well, these are two of the biggest stars on SmackDown, and Heyman doesn't want to even risk the possibility of Lesnar getting into the Rumble and winning the match, even if Big Show was in it as well. So you just say, okay, I need to use Big Show to make sure that Lesnar's not even in the match in the first place.
I guess that does make sense. Spoiler alert, their match at the Rumble, not as nearly as much fun as their match at Survivor Series, and yeah.
Yeah. So Heyman says Brock fears the Big Show when it's a challenge. Brock can't beat the Big Show, but then Brock shows up, marches to the ring, but before he can get to the ring and take on the Big Show in a little bit of a preview, he's attacked from behind by Matt Hardy and Shannon Moore with steel chairs, including one shot by Matt Hardy right to the back of his head.
Wow.
I mean, Matt Hardy has not had his greatest luck with steel chairs or anything really in AEW in 2020, with Sammy Guevara obviously splitting him open a hard way by throwing a chair at him beforehand, but maybe this was just that was this incident's coming back to him.
Karma, really. Yeah, like really, because Brock Lesnar is cut.
And Brock has one of the biggest backs in wrestling, and you missed all of it to hit him in the back of the head.
An attitude told him to do it.
Yeah, so he's bleeding heavily from the back of his head afterwards. Brock then fights them all off. He clotheslines Show out of the ring. He stands tall at the end of it. It's one of those happy accidents, I feel like, because obviously Lesnar, I'm not sure Lesnar would be too happy about the fact that he's busted wide open or busted out from the back of his head. But it's like the Becky Lynch thing. It just makes him look like more of a badass.
Yeah. They could have cleaned him up in the segments in between, though.
No, I think they say it on commentary when they obviously talk about the main event earlier. That commentary says that Lesnar refused medical treatment because he wants to still see the blood, so he's still angry into the match. I thought that was good. I thought that was a nice touch.
It is good. It's just like it's one of those things where I'm so much more like trepidatious about that stuff now than I would have been then. But yeah, it was good for the time.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those things of, yeah, you'd want to check that he's okay and he's not concussed or anything like that beforehand. But if it is just a cut or anything like that and he feels okay to do it, then I think it just works out well. But after some discussion from commentary, we see Funaki catching up with Dawn Marie and Al Wilson entering the limo. They're both still naked. It's January in the dead of night. It's just like, so probably Al Wilson was freezing his.
Yeah, you can see that the poor man is cold.
Yeah. So Dawn Marie says that they're going to video their entire honeymoon, send live updates to SmackDown. Al then says that he's cold and he wants to warm up with Dawn in the limo, so they both get in the limo. And then Funaki, this is the best line of the entire show. It's just Funaki stands there outside. It says Funaki feels very, very dirty. It's just like, obviously he didn't mean it in like some sort of weird sexual way, but it just feels like gross just talking about this whole thing. It was such good delivery.
That Funaki he's like just a nice little sprinkle of comedy right when you need it, and it's all good.
So before the main event, we have a little bit of a palate cleanser: Nunzio versus Crash Holly. So Josh Matthews is out there now doing the ring announcing as well as backstage interviewing because Chimmel was out of commission for the rest of the show because of Team Angle.
Josh Matthews looking very 2003 sitcom here.
Oh, I was thinking very in sync, light.
I mean, very like I'm a nerd, but I can dress kind of cool, and it's great. It's very 2003.
So commentary talks about Noble's losing streak, and they show a clip of Nunzio's attack on Crash and how Nunzio's come and revitalized Noble. Obviously, it conveniently misses out the fact that they took a beating the very next week from Bill Demott in a tag team match.
My favorite thing about this is they already have a team Titantron, but they'll never team again.
Yeah, pretty much. So Crash hits a crossbody immediately to start the match. You can tell that they know they don't have a lot of time, so they're just rushing through everything. Nunzio goes through the ropes, sends Crash shoulder first into the turnbuckle at the same time. Nunzio attacks the left arm and shoulder. Crash does an O'Connor roll, but Nunzio kicks out, sends Crash shoulder first back into the corner. He then hits a tornado arm breaker from the second rope and wins the match.
Very good. I don't know too many people who win matches with arm breakers, but I liked it.
Yeah. Nidia also showing absolutely no signs of ill feeling towards Nunzio now.
Oh, yeah, they dropped all that, too. I noticed that when they came out there. She's like, yay, we're here, and get him, Nunzio. Like, you were just afraid of this man.
They then do a tail of the tape for Brock Lesnar and Matt Hardy.
Because, haha.
Obviously, Brock is a lot bigger one, but it's just the idea. Brock has, like, his list of things. Like, he only has, in terms of WWE, he has, like...
King of the Ring WWE Champion.
Yeah, King of the Ring WWE Champion, and then they obviously add the NCAA stuff at the end of it as well. Hardy, they list his European Championship, multiple-time Tag Team Champion, multiple-time he's a former WCW Tag Team Champion. What was the other one? They mentioned one other one. I'm trying to remember.
Hardcore?
Yeah, Hardcore Champion, yeah, I think. So, yeah. So, Hardy at this point, he's fairly decorated, not as decorated as he would end up being by the time his WWE run ends.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive that even then Hardy was one of the more decorated superstars in the whole company.
So Hardy brags to Shannon Moore backstage about making Lesnar bleed and how Moore should have done that the same before when he fought Lesnar. That's why he gave Moore a tough lesson in attitude last week. Because obviously we didn't bring up the fact that he's there with Shannon Moore even though he beat up Shannon Moore the previous week.
Yeah, but tough love.
Yeah. Hardy says he's the reason Moore's here, so he can't afford any screw-ups tonight. Then we have Brock Lesnar versus Matt Hardy.
We do?
Oh, this match is so much fun. Listen, Brock Lesnar now has a reputation of squashing a lot of people, but this match is just entertaining. Like, he is so much fun just beating the shit out of Matt Hardy. Still bleeding from the head. He's wearing his gym gear. He's not wearing his wrestling gear instead. Oh, this was like some sort of SmackDown Shut Your Mouth crossover where he's put a Tire 2 on instead of a Tire 1.
Yes.
Matt's thing says he stays awake until the sunrise on New Year's.
I know, but long nights for Matt Hardy.
Yeah, but we don't get to learn any more as they charge the ring. Both eat clotheslines from Lesnar. He hits his massive backbreaker to Hardy, followed by a belly-to-belly throw. He then slaps Hardy across the face with his own blood.
That, again, even though I do feel like we have a different viewpoint on that now, great touch of animalistic, like, I will kill you. I am Brock Lesnar. You don't make me bleed.
He hits a pair of running power slams into the corner, holding like Hardy in place. Moore grabs Lesnar's foot, so Brock then drags him by his foot, like just moves his foot backwards, and Moore just slides into the ring, then throws him hard to the floor. Hardy then goes after the knee of Lesnar, takes him down briefly, but then he's easily thrown off by Lesnar. He's thrown around a bit more. Hardy throws Moore into Lesnar, who gets him up in a fireman's carry. He boots Hardy, charging at him, hits the F5, but then Hardy hits the Twist of Fate, and he gets a 2 count on Brock Lesnar. That was nice. That was a nice touch.
It puts over Hardy's finish well enough that it's like, just one of those could even keep Brock Lesnar down for 2 even after all this. But yeah, Brock Lesnar at this point is untouchable. And I like his stuff now. But this Brock Lesnar is so much fun.
Yeah, so Brock reverses another attempt at the Twist of Fate, hits another great F5 to win. Really fun squash match to main event. Big Show and Heyman appear on the stage. Brock stares them down. He grabs Hardy again, hits another F5, does to close the show, sending a message to his opponent for Royal Rumble. And yeah, that's the end of it. That's the end of this first episode of 2003.
I think they kick off the year very well. I mean, I could do without the wedding, but we all know that. I think this is a great start to the year. And in all honesty, it's a very honest representation of the year. This year on SmackDown revolves around Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, and the Big Show.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, there's some good progression here there was a good Eddie Guerrero Kidman match, the progression with the feud between them and Cena, so Cena's getting some more airtime as well. The main event was fun. There was a good tag team match. I like to say I could have done without the wedding. I could have done without Bill Demott and several other just nothing happening matches on this show. But yeah, I think overall it's a good start to the year.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously some of these are better in retrospect. Like anything involving Cena at the time, we probably would have been like, that wasn't necessary. But we know that John Cena is the top star, so it's all going somewhere.
So leading into next week, obviously there's going to be some more build towards the Royal Rumble. Brace yourself, Rob. Next week there are 9 matches.
What's the matter? There's no hotel segments to get through.
There are some hotel segments to get through as well, so we'll be referring to those on top. But they somehow managed to cram 9 wrestling matches onto one episode of SmackDown.
I appreciate it. I imagine they're all like 2 minutes long.
I think when I looked at it earlier, the longest match went less than 7 minutes.
That's crazy.
But that also includes matches, singles matches with Edge against Charlie Haas and Chris Benoit against Shelton Benjamin.
Amazing.
We'll get to see Matt Hardy against Billy Kidman in non-title match at the moment. We get to see
very exciting.
Big Show versus Rikishi.
Of course.
We have Jamie Noble versus Tajiri.
That's got to be a top 5.
Bill Demott versus Shannon Moore.
Why?
Yeah, I know. We have John Cena versus Chavo Guerrero and B Squared versus Eddie Guerrero.
I don't like that the Guerreros are babyface.
I mean, we'll get to see. We'll get to see. I mean, they've got a lot of charisma and they're very good in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's going somewhere. It's just like it comes out of nowhere, and it really just feels like you could do more with them as heels.
And Brock Lesnar versus A-Train in the main event.
That's some big meat right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we have to look forward to, as well as the honeymoon segments between Dawn Marie and Al Wilson. So we'll be talking about that as well. So so that's January the 9th for you. But for now, obviously, hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. So we just need to leave you with a few plugs to send you on your way. Of course, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the Patreon is a great way to help support us by putting a bit of a spare change into the coffers of the Smark Out Moment team. If you are a part of the Dark Horse tier, which is $10 above, then you get to listen to all our extra pay-per-view reviews that we do on top of these weekly shows. So the next one obviously coming up will be the Royal Rumble, but you can check out all of the catalogue from 2002 there as well. It's all archived there, so you can just check them out at your leisure. Other ways you can support, obviously, if you're watching through YouTube, there's the applause function, or you can join as a membership as well. It gives you similar benefits as well. And there are the Redbubble and TeePublic shops as well, if you want to pick up some Smark Out Moment merchandise while you're just browsing around. Just any way you can obviously support us. But if you don't have the capacity to give any money at this point in time, that's totally fine. You can help us, obviously, by checking out the website, smarkoutmoment.com, checking out all the great articles, check out, just any of the articles, Fantasy League, tournaments, that whenever they're running, just check all that stuff out there. Follow Smark Out Moment on Facebook and on Twitter. Join the Mega Maniacs Facebook group, which is where you can just get involved and talk about stuff with like-minded wrestling fans. Check out when we do like pay-per-view shows, we usually have like a long-running comment section there as well. We can get involved, just leave your thoughts on the show as they're going on. Check out Tony Mango, obviously the head honcho here at Smark Out Moment. Fanboys Anonymous as well is his other major project where you get all the geek culture stuff, movies, television, comic books, video games, all that discussion over on fanboysanonymous.com. Check out their Patreon, their Redbubble, their TeePublic, everything to do with that, all their stuff on social media as well. Rob, where can we find you?
Here's where you can find me. So we thank you, first of all, and I will just add on to that, now that it is 2021. Part of the reason that is so important is because Tony, who we love dearly, does have his own wedding to pay for. And unlike Dawn and Al, they're not going to just throw away their wedding dress and get married in the nude. So he's got to pay for stuff. So yeah, any money at all you can give towards anything Smark Out Moment related is greatly appreciated. But as for me, welcome to a crazy week of wrestling. So you can find me on Fightful.com. I think I'm covering Wrestle Kingdom, New Year's Evil, New Year's Dash, New Year's Smash from AEW, Kings of Colosseum. All of that is coming this week to Fightful.com. Check me out there. Check me out on Twitter at DeFelice, and just keep supporting, and we thank you so much. And once again, Happy New Year.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, of course, at Wigmeister14. Of course, Happy New Year to everyone. Hopefully this year is significantly better than the previous one. I doubt it can get any worse, but I don't really want to jinx myself too much by breathing that into existence. But hopefully you have a great year. We hope to have a great year as well. And yeah, thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment, and we are being counted out.